Welcome to the Flint Catholic Podcast. I'm Father Tony Smila.
And I'm Michael Hasso.
So we'd like to begin today with a heartfelt congratulations to Bishop Earl Boyet. So I know all of you have been following with great interest and detail the USCCB Fall General Assembly. I know you've been watching it.
Everyone's been.
Everyone's been watching.
It's basically the Super Bowl of the Catholic Church, right?
Yes, definitely. You know, the live stream yesterday was 9 hours long.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
And you tuned in for all 9 hours?
All 9 hours.
Wow.
That's not true. I didn't do that. Yes. Well, they talked about a lot of different things, and one of the things that happened, a very exciting thing. Congratulations, Bishop Boyet. He is now the chair of the Conference of Catholic Bishops Committee on Clergy, Consecrated Life, and Vocations. How exciting! So we actually have a video of that exact election happening. There are the numbers. And then everyone applauds. Yes. Very good, very good, very good. Looks like a really exciting setting there.
Yeah.
All right.
Everyone looks moved.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I would, yes. So maybe one day we'll figure out what the Committee on Clergy, Consecrated Life, and Vocations does.
Yeah.
But, what exactly it means to be a chair. Perhaps we can get Bishop Boyet on and ask us about that. That's what I love. We'll see if he does that.
Yeah, and I was going to ask what exactly, and I realize we'll have this conversation with him, but what exactly does this mean? Interestingly enough, I had two people ask me about this yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa. So people actually are paying attention?
I know.
That's cool.
To be fair, I think it's that they were on the diocesan Facebook page and
that'll do it.
saw the announcement. So
I'm not on Facebook, so I missed it.
yeah.
I had to see it the hard way.
But yeah, I couldn't believe two people asked me about it in the same day.
Nice.
So
we'll hopefully we'll be able to find out here what that
Yeah.
means. So one other election of note, I thought it was kind of cool. The Committee on Laity, Marriage, and Family Life and Youth. So we're throwing everything on top of each other, right? Laity, marriage, family life, and youth.
Yep.
The chairman-elect is Bishop Robert Barron, the auxiliary bishop of Los Angeles. So that'll be kind of cool. Very good, right?
That is awesome.
It's the only other name I recognized. I'm just going to be honest. So, looking through that very long agenda and all the things that were on it, actually a few things struck me out as kind of interesting and wanted to talk about it. One of the things I think they voted on today, I didn't actually check to see if they accepted the vote or it was affirmed. I'm assuming it will be. But we're looking to see if Blessed Mother, or I guess Saint Mother Teresa, will be added to the calendar. So give her a feast day.
Oh, nice.
Which would be pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming they voted in the affirmative.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, how could you not?
I think you'd probably be a pretty unpopular bishop if you didn't vote that one through.
That's probably true. Can you imagine going back to your constituents?
Yeah.
Why did you vote no? Well, so I'm assuming that went through and passed.
Yeah.
One thing that I found more interesting was that there was a vote yesterday on advancing, or maybe it was today. Again, I don't remember. It was advancing the cause of three people. So Servant of God, Charlene Marie Richard, Servant of God, Auguste Robert Pelafig. I think
we'll go with that.
Pelafig. I think he was born in France, so it's French. Pelafig.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. And I think he moved to Louisiana, if I'm not mistaken. So, very French.
Nice.
And then Servant of God, Joseph Dutton. What's really cool about all three of these people is they're all laymen and women. And so we're advancing the causes of laymen and women here. They've all got really cool stories, and so I just wanted to share some of their stories. I did just Google researches on them and just to see who they were. And what is really cool about these three people is we've got three very different people who lived very different lives and all have a really good cause to be named saints in the church. So this is really cool. So let's go through them. So Charlene Marie Richard, she was born in 1947, and she was diagnosed with acute lymphatic leukemia, which sounds awful. She died on August 11th, 1959 at the age of 12. So during her confinement in Our Lady of Lourdes Hospital in Lafayette, Louisiana, Charlene would offer her prayers and suffering to God each day for the benefit of others. She She was a faith-filled little girl, said Father Joseph Brennan, a priest for the Diocese of Lafayette, Louisiana, who was serving as hospital chaplain and ministered to Charlene during her final days. I see Charlene as a witness for people of all ages to the power of resignation and acceptance of God's will, said Father Brennan. She wasn't different in any way except that when the crisis came in her life, and it came very early, she accepted it with faith and trust and love.
Wow.
Right? A 12-year-old was just ready to give her entire life to the Lord in whatever way he asked her to do that.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
The story really reminds me of one Blessed Carlo Acutis.
Yep.
Recent saint, or soon to be canonized saint, hopefully.
Yep. The Pokemon saint.
Yeah.
That's
yep,
remember that?
You
the
got
Pokemon
it.
saint.
And then also Blessed Chiara.
Yes.
Blessed Chiara Badano. Very, very similar stories.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad we have our very own coming up
No
in
doubt.
America.
No doubt.
So that's awesome.
So let's move on to Auguste Robert Pelafig. So Mr. Auguste, so his name was Nunco, which I think is Uncle and O. Uncle O was his nickname, Uncle O. So he was a layman born in 1888 in France near Lourdes. His family emigrated to the United States and settled in French-speaking Louisiana in the town of Ardnaville. Yeah, Ardnaville. In keeping with French custom, as Auguste grew older, he was given the nickname Nunco, there we go, meaning uncle, for indeed he came to be considered like a good uncle to everyone who came into his ambit of influence. Ambit.
Yeah, I was
There's
going
a
to say,
word.
did you write this yourself?
I
Because I'm not familiar with the word ambit.
May have copied and pasted right from the website for his cause. I did
That's
read it
okay.
ahead of time.
We'll allow it.
I did read it ahead of time. I don't remember the word ambit, though.
Yeah.
He graduated from Louisiana State Normal School in, I'm not even going to try that word, Natchitoches. Natchitoches. I think I got it. Louisiana, where he studied to become a teacher. It was during that time he became a member of the Apostleship of Prayer League of the Sacred Heart, an organization first founded in France in 1844 for the purpose of devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus and praying for the intentions of the Pope. He taught in public schools at Crotte Springs and Coteau-Roder, a rural area in St. Martin Parish, just a few miles from Ardnaville. Remember, they're not counties in Louisiana, they're parishes, which I think is kind of cool. In 1949, as the only layman, he joined the faculty of Ardnaville's newly built Little Flower Catholic School. Nunco was known for his passionate devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Blessed Virgin Mary. He devoutly attended daily mass and served wherever he was needed. Perhaps most inspiringly, with the rosary looped around his arm, Nunco traversed the highways and byways of his community, spreading devotion to the heart of Jesus.
Wow.
So we see two very different people right here off the bat,
Yeah.
right? So he lived a much longer life, and he devoted his life to the devotions of the Rosary, Sacred Heart of Jesus. Just fantastic, and really, lived rather ordinary life. He taught, just did things normal people did, but did them exceedingly well.
Yeah.
So I find it
Beautiful.
fascinating. Just ordinary people, right? If you don't think you can do that, right? Like we could all do something like that. That's a
Yeah.
life we all can live, and yet he is now up for canonization. That's what makes it
sure.
interesting. He didn't do some crazy thing. He just taught people and wanted to spread the devotion of the Sacred Heart of Jesus.
Yep.
How cool is that?
And actually, I'll just put in a good word for the Apostleship of Prayer.
Ooh, there we go.
That's still available to us today. That's
Yeah.
not something that's long gone and dead. I'm actually a part of it. I think all you do, at least all I remember doing, you just sign up on a website and you pray the morning offering every day, which is just a short little prayer, and you pray for the Holy Father's intentions.
Nice.
Very simple.
It's always good to pray for the
And
Pope.
actually I find it fascinating because a lot of saints were a part of that. So, really cool organization. Check them out.
Perhaps it's the saint maker.
Maybe.
Did the prayer make the saint, or did the saint make the prayer?
Yes.
Yes. Very good answer. Yes. All right, this brings us to Joseph Dutton. And this one is the longest of the story, and this one's actually kind of a cool story. I really like this story a lot. So he was born in 1843. He grew up in Janesville, Wisconsin. Funny enough, I know a priest from Janesville, Wisconsin. Anyway, he enlisted in, he grew up in Janesville, Wisconsin. The cheese curds in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Anyway, he enlisted in the 13th Wisconsin Volunteer Infantry for the American Civil War and was appointed regimental quartermaster sergeant, later promoted to captain. So we have a guy being raised up as a saint who served in the American Civil War. That is cool.
Yeah.
So after the war, he remained in service and married in 1866, but his marriage soon collapsed. This began a period in Dutton's life which he later referred to as the degenerate decade. He said that he'd been a moderate drinker before and during the war, but during this time, the drinking, chiefly of whiskey, was fierce and reckless. In July of 1876, he became strictly an abstainer after estimating that he drank 15 barrels of whiskey over the course of 15 years.
Whoa.
That's putting some liquor down pretty hard. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Woo. So, yeah, definitely the degenerate decade for sure.
Yeah.
He spent the next 14 years at different jobs, but around 1881 and 1882, Dutton determined that he wanted to do penance and make atonement for his wild years. After studying the Catholic faith, he decided that embracing the faith would best enable him to lead a penitential life. He was received into the Catholic Church of St. Peter's at Memphis on April 27th, 1883, and on his 40th birthday, where he took the name Joseph. It's cool. So he wasn't even a Catholic before.
Yeah.
He becomes Catholic through this conversion moment, comes into the faith, and it only gets better from there. Soon after, he entered a Trappist monastery at Gethsemane, Kentucky, where he stayed for 20 months. So, don't just dip your toe in, right? He's going to go all the way in right away.
Yeah.
My
He was
goodness.
like, forget those, 30-day silent retreats.
Nah. I want the rest of my
Yeah.
life to be like that.
Yep.
Ooh. Yikes. So,
Jeez.
right? But he only stayed for 20 months. He devoted his life to hard work and silence, which is what they do in Gethsemane. However, he realized that the best way for him to do penance was not through a life of contemplation, but through a life of action. I want to come back to that after we finish the story, because that's a really interesting and important point. So remind me to come back to that.
Will do.
Hopefully.
Action.
Life of action. So he left the monastery and with the blessing of the abbot and sought out other religious orders. At about that time, he heard of Damien of Molokai, and he was inspired. He wanted to join Damien in his work, so he sailed to Honolulu. He heard of Hawaii, and he's like, I want to go there.
Yeah.
So he sails to Honolulu, where he was approved to work with Father Damien. So Father Damien had been diagnosed with leprosy the year before, so the help was welcome. Remember, Father Damien of Molokai, he lived on the island of Molokai, and he served lepers there. And that's, it was only a matter of time for him before he himself became a leper, which is a very painful disease.
Yeah.
So he knew he was going to get that, and he did.
And by the way, if our listeners are unfamiliar with Damien of Molokai, it's now Saint Damien of Molokai.
Yes.
And you can actually visit the sites where all of this happened, stuff like that. I actually know somebody who has been there. So
Nice. Man,
pretty cool from what I've heard.
no doubt.
Not to mention, I'm sure, Hawaii isn't too bad either.
Hawaii's not a bad choice.
Yeah.
Never a bad choice. So he became an expert in caring for patients' medical needs, and then he spent the next 35 years working in the Baldwin Home for Boys. He died in 1931, 1 month short of his 88th birthday. So what a fascinating story, right? From Janesville, Wisconsin, to the Civil War, to just a debauchery life for a while, and then conversion to a Trappist, then to Hawaii. This dude did it all.
Yeah.
He was everywhere, did all kinds of things, lived a crazy life. So I want to go back to that point that
The action.
Yes, the action. So he discerned after 20 months, right? So sometimes when we get this conversion moment, right, we can say, I want to do everything for the Lord, and I'm going to just go to the craziest and wildest religious order, which is like full-time silence, which he did. Trappists, full-time silence and work. But he realized that, God just didn't want him to suffer unnecessarily. He didn't want to suffer in this, I need to stay here and do penance because of my bad years. But he realized God had something even better for him. God just didn't want him to sit and languish, but he wanted him to actually excel at what he was calling him to do. And I think sometimes we can get that messed up. It's like, if I'm going to do penance, then I need to suffer, and that means I'm probably going to do something that I'm not very good at, or I don't enjoy, or is not good for my soul. That's not true at all. And he recognized that. It took him 20 months, but then he realized, then he saw, okay, this is where God's
Yeah.
really calling me to work with Father Damien.
Yeah.
And I thought that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think too it's beautiful the discernment process that's going on there.
Yeah.
Because one, he recognizes that this is a good thing, this is a holy way of life. You know, joining these monks at Gethsemane, which is the name of the retreat center,
Yeah.
the monastery.
In Kentucky. Yeah.
He realized that was a good way of life, but he also recognized that that wasn't what he was being called to.
Right.
So that's where discernment got a whole lot more personal,
Yep.
and that's what ultimately led him to a life of holiness. So
Yes. Ah, fantastic.
awesome.
All right. Well, that ends our first segment here. So we'll be back right after the break.
Okay, welcome back to
Welcome
the Flint
back.
Catholic Podcast. So this segment, what we're going to be talking about, we're going to revisit a subject that's pretty near and dear to my heart, and that's goals.
Yes.
So perfect time of year. You know, it's mid-November. I don't know when you guys are listening to this, but it's mid-November here, and that's a really great time to be talking about goals. We're approaching the end of the liturgical year. This coming Sunday will be the Feast of Christ the King. So that's what I do, is like, that's kind of my cue, is like, I want to be ready to go for my goals by the time the liturgical year starts.
Mm-hmm.
And it can really get you off some good momentum going, you know? So we're going to revisit this topic of goals. But first, before we start talking about goals, I want to recommend to listeners that you go check out our previous episode on this, and it'll be linked in the show notes.
That's right.
Excuse me. And last year we talked about how to effectively set goals. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to reset. So you have this year of working to achieve your goals. You've maybe succeeded in some areas, probably failed in others.
Yep.
And you just got some feedback. So what do you do with this now? So we're going to talk about resetting goals. So as I said before, why are we doing this now? We want to get an early start, and that's really key. Not just thinking, January 1st, let's say. Nothing wrong with January 1st. It's great if you set goals at all. But we want to be thinking ahead of time, okay, I want to already be on my way to my goals come January 1st.
Well, and I think it's important, too, to take some time and discern it, too. You can't like over the night just be like, boom, I'm going to do this. And because then those are the ones that never click.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the ones that just kind of lay flat.
Yeah. And on that related note, and I think everyone's experienced this, even after setting goals so many different times for so many different things in my life, I still have moments where I look back a year later. In fact, I was doing that today because I was thinking about this. I do this over the course of like a week or so, just like sitting with them and writing out some goals and stuff. And what I realized from last year, even with a bit of discernment involved, there was some where I was like, yeah, that wasn't even a good goal. Like I don't even want that goal anymore because things just changed.
Yep.
So I really recommend, like Father Tony said, a little bit of discernment can go a really long way when you're setting goals.
Yep.
So anyway, regardless, I wanted to say, regardless of when you start, whenever you listen to this, I know many of our listeners listen long after we record them. It might even be well into 2022, and you're listening to this. Whatever you do, just do it now.
Yeah.
Do it now. If you're listening in November, great. If you're listening in March of next year, great. Just do it. Either way, start today. There's an ancient proverb that says, the best time to plant a tree is 100 years ago. The second best time is today.
It's pretty deep.
Yep.
It's just like Bitcoin.
Yeah.
The best time to buy into Bitcoin was 100 years ago.
Yep.
The second best time is today.
Yeah.
Because it's only going to go up from there. There is no financial advice being given on this program.
I'm really glad you added that
Thanks.
caveat there.
That's right. No financial advice. Bitcoin's pretty good.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So what we should start with every year, especially after you've already set some goals, You've worked to achieve them for the past year. The first thing you want to do is review the goals. How was this past year? Just sit with that. Look at the different areas of your life. I'd recommend looking at a few different areas, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But how did each area go? What was maybe your best area? What was your worst area? Like maybe you're really really good in areas of your personal life, but maybe your health really suffered, or or vice versa. What areas are you strong in? What areas are you weak in? Did you accomplish all of your goals? But it's not all about accomplishing goals, because what we're supposed to do here is celebrate progress over perfection.
Yes.
Right?
That's such a big point.
Yeah.
Right? None of us are going to be perfect.
Yep.
None of us are going to do it well. Even if you did one goal better.
Yeah.
Right? Great. You're
Exactly.
one goal better than you were a year ago.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe you didn't accomplish any of your goals, but you made some significant progress in all areas.
Ooh, that's good too. Ooh.
You should be feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah.
But likewise, you might achieve all of your goals, but if you don't experience progress in the next year, you're probably not going to be too happy with that in any area of your life, right? So it's really about progress more than it is about the goal itself, because it might take you an extra year to accomplish that goal that you missed, but if you accomplished it, you still got where you want to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's about progress over perfection.
I think some of it too is, I think what's helpful too is to understand why, right? Go into the why. Why did I not make such good
Yep.
progress here? Why did I make great progress here? If we understand the whys, then okay, if I have the same goal every year and it's not happening and I don't understand why, I can't fix it. It's just probably the next year is probably going to end up the same way as it did the year before. So
Yep.
understanding the why is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So go deeper than the surface level and really reflect on the past year.
And be honest with it too. Sometimes if you're not accomplishing goals, you got to be honest with yourself as to why it didn't happen.
Yeah, for sure. So how do we review the past year?
Good
So
question.
I got 3 recommendations for listeners. The first one, which was already mentioned, review your goals. Not only looking at what was accomplished, but especially where you made progress. Maybe even like going through and highlighting, hey, I didn't accomplish this goal, but I made really significant progress in this area. That's a win. So write it down, highlight it, celebrate it. It's a good thing. The second thing, well, actually, these other 2 are pretty challenging. And I'll say review your calendar and review your finances.
Oof.
So you want to look at your calendar to get an idea of, here's some like milestone events, and you can often see this on your calendar. It's like, let's say you set a health goal or something, and you noticed, hey, I achieved my goal this year for health. And you simultaneously noticed that you were very consistent in going to the gym or whatever it was, going for a run or whatever. That will most likely be reflected in your calendar.
Yep, definitely.
And similarly, too, for prayer time.
Yes.
This all goes together. And so we can see those signs of success in our calendar.
No doubt.
So it's really important.
I have to put my prayer time in my calendar. Like if
Yeah.
it doesn't go in my calendar, you can almost guarantee I'm not going to do it.
Yep.
It just has to be there for me, just to be accountable to myself.
Yep.
But also just to know, hey, I've put it in my calendar. So yeah, definitely, you can definitely see it in the calendar.
Yep. That actually just reminded me of something that I heard from Father John Riccardo.
Ooh, here we go.
He has an awesome podcast, and I heard him mention this story from when he was in seminary. One of his roommates was, he was very ambiguous about the details for for obvious reasons, but one of his roommates ended up being is now a very high-ranking member of the church, he said, insinuating maybe a cardinal or something like that. And he said this particular roommate, he had this Post-it note on his bathroom mirror, and it just said, pray. And Father John was like, what's that for? He's like,
Don't you live
That's-
that life?
yeah. Yeah. Well, and especially in seminary.
Yep.
You know, you can't really get around, you know, a certain amount of prayer each day being in seminary. So he was like, what's that for? And he was like, if I don't have it there, I'll forget. Think about that.
Yep.
If I don't have it there, I'll forget. And he's in seminary. So,
Hey, the way I see it, whatever it takes.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You got to do whatever
For sure.
it takes. It was
Yeah.
important enough for him to look at it and say, all right, this is a reality. This
Yep.
is where I'm at. I'm going to forget if I don't put it here.
yeah.
Boom. I'm going to put it there, and I'm going to put my pride off to the side. Because he knew when he put it there, Father Ricardo was going to look at it and be like,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
But he put his pride off to the side. He's like, don't care. More important.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
mad props for that.
Yeah.
Mad
That was
props.
that was a really encouraging story for me, not just because of the humility, but that we have somebody that's a high-ranking member
Oh
of
my
the
gosh,
church.
yes. Well, yes. No
But we
doubt.
won't get into that.
We won't get into that.
We're talking about goals today. So anyway, look at your calendar and then look at your finances. So look at bank statements, credit card statements, whatever you use to keep track of your finances. Look at your finances and look, where was my money spent?
Yep.
Obviously, there's a certain amount of it where it's like, okay, you know, you went to pay for your house, whatever. There's certain things that are just kind of a given. But beyond those things that are sort of necessities, where was your money spent? Or maybe within those necessities, are you spending a lot in one particular area or something like that? So why do I say this? This actually comes from another priest, ironically enough. I wasn't going to mention this, but it made me think of it with the Father John story. I heard this from Father Mike Schmitz, and he actually said this to a bunch of college students at, it was a Focus conference. Focus is a college campus ministry.
Fellowship of Catholic
ministry.
University Students.
Yep. So he said, you can see what you value based on your calendar and your bank statements. He said, how we spend our time and our money is the best indicator of what we value.
That's so
Wow.
true. That's so true.
Yeah.
It is, right? Oftentimes, our calendars, I know I'm glued to my calendar on my phone. Like, if it's
Yep.
not there, I'm not doing it. It's got to
Yeah.
be there. So, making sure my calendar is in order. Yeah. How do we spend our day? How do we organize our day? And certainly true with the bank statements, too.
Yep.
No doubt.
Yeah, so we got to look back at these things because they provide accountability for, like, how are we orienting our life. And also, we can look at these things and say, are these aligned with my goals? And the good news is, if they're not, I'm betting there's going to be some pretty obvious answers of, well, here's what I should be doing differently.
Yeah.
Here's how I should either spend my time and or my money differently.
Yep.
So those are key. That'll give you a really good indication. In fact, if you did a checkup mid-year, let's say a few months into 2022, and you just look, okay, how have I been spending my time and my money in the past 3 months? If I continue this, am I going to be on track to accomplish my goals?
Yep.
And you can see it.
Yeah. If we're looking at the spiritual life, because this is a Catholic podcast,
Yeah,
right? We definitely want to dive into the spiritual life. So how do we set spiritual goals, right? How do we make sure that we're following up on our spiritual goals and especially, looking at calendar, looking at our finances. How do we do our finances with our spiritual
Okay.
goals, right?
Yeah.
Yes, right? So definitely the calendar is, when do we pray? How are we spending time praying? Are we spending time giving back to the community? Are we spending time in volunteer work? Whatever it is that God has called us to do, the talents we have to forward the kingdom. Are we evangelizing? Whatever it is God is calling us to do, are we spending our time well in that? Definitely foundation being prayer. No
Yep.
doubt about that. But then where else is God asking you to spend your time? So does it mean he wants you to do it all at once? No, right? We
Yeah.
ease into it, just like an athlete can't, if I were to hop on the ice right now, I don't know if I could do like 15 laps around in like a minute, right? Like I just,
Yeah.
I'm not so good on the ice. I'd have to train at it over and over and over again. Start slow and work my way up. And so we do that with our spiritual life as well. We don't just go all in at once, but we build in. So, okay, I'm going to spend this time in prayer, and I'm going to do this thing outside of what I normally do. Then you build it up from there, see where it goes. So definitely with the finances as well. Where are what are we supporting with our money? What finances, or what charities are we supporting? Are we supporting our parish with our money? What ministries are we supporting?
Yeah.
Right. And that's I always find that kind of exciting. Like, what are the ministries that I'm really excited about and really fired up about and want to support?
Yeah.
Because when we find those ministries, like, yeah, absolutely. You don't have to give like $1,000, okay, I'm going to do $5 a month over here. Do $5 a month over here for this ministry.
Yep.
You can really, do a lot with your money in that way. So
Yeah,
find things that fire you up.
And it's really about where are you directing that, not only your money, but where are you directing your attention?
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people don't think about this, like, especially if people find, for instance, giving to be a burden. Oftentimes, what I've noticed, it can be because they haven't found a ministry that they connect with.
Right.
Where, I notice this a lot, especially with like pro-life ministry, especially where it's like, maybe somebody's pro-life, but once they get connected with some sort of ministry and they start supporting it, you can often see a great passion for supporting that in whatever way they can.
Yep.
And, whatever it might be for you. I mean, whether it's supporting youth in different ways or supporting things like St. Luke's on the north end of Flint, or just so many other good ministries.
Yeah.
I really recommend, and with your finances, I would put a giving goal.
Yeah.
So you might have a goal for, saving for retirement or whatever the case may be.
Paying off student loans.
Yeah. No, for real. I mean, that's a very good goal.
Yep.
And those are good things, but I wouldn't exclude giving from that. That's an important part of it.
Right.
So, and something I'll add too, to reference back to another podcast as well. Think in terms of percentages. So when you're setting a giving goal, look back at what did I actually give this year? For many of you, I would imagine that's fairly easy just because if you just gave to your parish, you can just look at that statement, add it all up, divide it by whatever your income is. There's the percentage. And it really doesn't matter where you're at. But the point is, how do you get better? And by better, it also doesn't necessarily always mean more.
Correct.
Better means praying about it and intentionally directing your money there.
It's true. Even in a parish, I might give up a trade secret here. Like if you love your youth ministry at your parish, you can direct your money to go right to the youth ministry.
Yes.
You can direct it if you want to target it, this is where I want my money to go.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll do that.
And on that note, if you really, really like college campus ministry,
yes, yes. Why didn't I say
you can
that?
have.
I feel like I'm so sorry. I
forgive you.
I'm so sorry. I missed a big opportunity there.
No.
Oh,
no, that's fine.
breaks.
This, believe it or not, this segment wasn't all about plugging college campus ministry, but it would be
Certainly.
appreciated.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, it's really just where are you directing it? So within these goals, I really recommend 4 key areas. You can divide this up differently depending on your needs. You might have another area where you're like, I feel like that's missing, or you might break some of these down more. But the basics of where I would set goals are faith, family, finances / career, but I like the alliteration of the F's.
Yes.
So faith, family, finances, and fun.
I like the last one.
And by fun, I would also...
I like fun.
Yeah. No, it is good. That's an important category that a lot of people leave off.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, within that, I would just include all sorts of personal stuff, whether it's under family or fun. Those are important things too. Mm-hmm. Like one of my favorite things about the goals that I set for this past year is I just had a bunch of random stuff under fun. And it wasn't like big things like, climb Mount Everest or, anything. It wasn't anything like super crazy like that, but it was things like learn to golf or, just like something where I was like, yeah, I want to learn that or I want to do that. And it might have just been like a one day thing or something like that. Including things like that, that's so important. And for the spiritual life too. Mm-hmm. It's good to have fun.
Yes.
By the way, if you've ever spent any significant amount of time with a religious order, you will realize how much fun they have.
Correct.
So that, if nothing else, that should prove that fun is a good thing.
It is.
Helps us grow in holiness. So
there's nothing like watching a bunch of religious sisters in full habits playing floor hockey.
Yep.
And like how super competitive that actually gets.
Yeah.
Like watching cross checks out there on the floor. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Man, I'm glad I'm watching. And not
I was going to say, were you the referee?
I was not. I was watching. I'm like, oh, that looks dangerous. And they're having a great time.
That's great. So, again, we want to look back on the past year and take that as feedback. Mm-hmm. And then from there, once we've thought about some of these things that we just talked about, then take it to Jesus.
Yes.
And it's literally this simple, guys. Jesus, what lessons do you want me to learn from this past year? Because you don't want to go through the year and miss out on the lessons that Jesus wanted you to learn, how to become a better disciple in a particular area of your life. You don't want to miss out on those because ultimately you got to relearn them.
Yep.
That's how it works. So always going back to Jesus and just asking, what are the lessons here that I should be learning?
Yes. And if we need to know how to do that, we can reference another episode where we talked about hearing God speak. Lessons from Samuel.
Yeah.
So go there, learn how to hear God speak to us, and then, boom, take that question from him.
Yeah.
Jesus, what do you think about these things?
Yep. And I think the moral of the story there is really just listen to the Flint Catholic podcast more.
That is the true moral of the story. Yeah. So everyone's goal for next year is to listen and watch all of our episodes.
Yeah.
All of them.
On multiple platforms,
yes.
Ideally.
I'll do that. I'll do that.
I don't even know if I could do that.
Well, I'm listening to ours right now.
That's
live.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
That counts,
that's
right?
True.
Doesn't count as
we'll count that.
It doesn't count as another one on the
Okay.
YouTube page. But if you're listening to us, by the way, we're on YouTube now.
Yeah.
Did you know that? We're on YouTube. If you're on YouTube watching us, you
you
saw me wave to you.
I actually did know that.
You knew that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
I'm looking at the
I love
camera.
this new studio. This new studio is great. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
So check
It's
us
a
out on
beautiful thing.
YouTube, Flint Catholic Podcast. And,
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll be there. Is there anything else we need to say?
There was just a couple of tips I was going to leave you guys with.
Tips.
Just because, after doing this a few times, I've walked away with a couple of things that have really helped me, and I want to pass those on to everyone. So the first one is don't make too many goals.
Yeah.
So whatever areas you want to set goals in, doesn't matter, but just keep it to one or two. Don't do more than that because then it just turns into a distraction. And in fact, there's studies that show when you go beyond 2 goals in any given area of your life, the chances of you completing even one of those goals goes down like exponentially.
Oh, yikes. Don't do that.
So
don't do that.
Yeah, don't do 3 unless it's, again, one of those like really simple like fun goals that I had mentioned.
Learn to golf.
Where it's just like you just show up for it and you do it. If it's something like that, you can do a couple more of those. But for like really significant goals that you got to work at, keep it very simple. Keep it to the minimum.
Yep.
And then the second pro tip, you don't need to work on all of your goals at once.
Oh yeah, that's a bad idea. Don't do that.
And actually, that's something that I discovered this year, sort of unintentionally. But I didn't work on all of my goals at once. So there's actually goals that I set a year ago, and we still have time left in 2021. I'm just starting on them, but they're things that I plan to get done before the end of the year, and it's okay because you can't work on everything at once. So just focus where you need to, and then move to the next thing.
I think the easiest way to do that too is spend 2 weeks on one.
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks, not a long period of time, but spend 2 weeks and I'm going to focus on this goal.
Yeah.
And then see what happens at the end.
Yeah, and I'll just give an example too, especially of a spiritual goal or a faith goal, because I think that area can be really tough
Yes.
to like quantify a goal. My goal this past year was to grow in interceding for others.
Ooh,
So specifically, you know, for me, I was praying before, but one thing that I noticed, I wasn't really interceding for particular people or situations as best I could. And so it was that specific area where I just said, this is going to be my focus.
Mm-hmm.
So where I take some of this from, if you guys have ever heard of the 4 Signs of a Dynamic Catholic, Matthew
Yeah.
Kelly, highly recommend that for like a sort of spiritual goal setting. He has these 4 pillars, and he basically says, if all you did was just focused on one of them for the next year, not even quantified it into a real goal of like a finish line, but even just said, this next year, I want to grow in my knowledge of the faith. So I'm going to do something to like study my faith a little bit this year. It might be read a page of scripture a day. Could be anything. But just saying, I'm going to focus in this area. And by focusing on it and having some sort of habit with that, you're going to grow in it.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah, that's where
Great.
I'd start.
Good. So we got a few weeks left before the end of the liturgical year.
Yep.
And the beginning of the new one. So set your goals along with us. Make one of your goals to give us a 5-star review and like us on, we're not on Facebook. We're on YouTube and
Yep.
anchor.fm. See you
Sounds
next
good.
week.